Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Scouting for Growth. We have a fascinating guest joining us today, Denzil Eden, founder and CEO of Smarty, an AI-powered productivity assistant. Denzil brings a wealth of experience as both a technical founder and female leader in technology. With degrees in computer science and AI from MIT and an MBA from Harvard, Denzil has been at the frontier of harnessing AI's potential for transformation or simply to transform work. She has held roles in engineering and product management and is now the founder and CEO of Smarty. Denzil started actually coding at just 8 years of age and has always been passionate about using technology to make people's lives easier. Driven by a vision for software to become a digital extension of ourselves, Denzil embarked on her founder journey in 2020 and raised $2.5 million in venture capital funding to build a platform, Smarty. Congratulations, Denzil. It's not easy, often for female founders. Backed by Per VC, Smarty has helped thousands of professionals achieve peak productivity by creating structure around routine activities, automating administrative tasks, and maximizing time efficiency. During our conversation today, Denzil will share her founder journey as a solo technical female founder. She will provide advice for startups navigating current economic uncertainties. She will share insights on how she sees AI continuing to shape the future of work over the next decade, and she will provide practical tips for founders and professionals to help them start implementing today activities, tools to enhance productivity. You won't want to miss this forward-thinking founder. She is absolutely amazing. Now, let's welcome Denzil onto the show. Hi, Denzil. Thank you so much for joining me on Scouting for Growth today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited too, and actually diving into your past and really your incredible background, because you have been in coding at MIT, you have done product management at Microsoft, you've done so many things, and also you founded Smarty. So tell us a little bit more about you. What got you to set up your own startup, and what got you into those big, Ivy League, business school, university? What did you do at MIT? And I think Harvard I read as well too.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. It's been a very long and winding path. I started coding actually very early in life. I was 8 years old. I started with this language called Logo, which is like coding for kids, and it has a little turtle that you give commands to, and it moves through puzzles and builds a house. And I just fell in love with it. I just really understood how it worked. It was so logical. And I fell in love with building really early in life. And so kind of took that passion with me through my education up until MIT, where I felt like that was the place where I could best let that passion really thrive. And so I started pursuing computer science there and ended up staying for my master's as well, because I always had a fascination with AI. And so I did a theoretical master's in AI, but did a practical project in human-computer interactions. So I built pretty much Slack, but for classrooms. But I didn't stick with it because for some reason, when I was in college and in grad school the first time, I thought that being a founder wasn't for me, that I wanted more stability, that I wasn't like the right type of person to be a founder. And I'm not sure where that mindset came from. But then I went into big tech and I started as a PM. I missed coding. So then I switched over to being a software engineer at Yammer. So I was first at PowerPoint and then I switched to Yammer, and liked it, but I still felt like there was something missing. So I started exploring a lot of different careers like law or finance, politics, and then decided I should go to business school to really discover what I wanted to do and also just round out my education a little bit more, and give me more time and space to figure out what I wanted to do. And so while I was at business school is really where the idea for Smarty struck me. I realized that I kept coming back to building. I wanted to build something, and I really started in two ways. One, I was asking myself, what if I could only work on one thing for the rest of my life, what would it be? What am I most passionate about? And what, even in tech, there's so many different industries that you can go into. And so what am I most excited to build? And then the second thing was just that I was feeling extremely overwhelmed in all aspects of my life, from work, professionally, personally, school, balancing all of my extracurriculars. And I realized that the majority of the things that I was doing and had on my plate could be easily automated with existing technology. And so I was like, why is technology not automating all of these administrative tasks for me? So I started building Smarty for myself. It started as a chatbot. I would chat Smarty things I needed to do. And if Smarty could do those tasks, it would try to automate them. And so that's how I got started. I pitched my first investor in business school. She said no, but I kept going. I kept hustling. And it took me a couple more years to really get it off the ground. And that's how I
That's
got started.
amazing. That's amazing. Probably looking at where we are going with artificial intelligence and AI assistant, you probably saw the news this week, yesterday, with OpenAI. First, I think we have this OpenAI news with Andrej, who actually leaving OpenAI, maybe to set up his own company. But we have had other news, right, with founders coming together to actually build the next AI assistant as well. So how does it fit into your realm? Because you built Smarty for you a long time ago, and now the whole world is about AI agents and assistants.
I know it's so fascinating to see. It's because I used the same pitch that I used in 2018, but the appetite for the pitch is so different today. And so it shows you that timing is everything. It really matters when you are pitching something, when you are needing validation, and you shouldn't let external validation dissuade you from pursuing something you feel passionate about. Because I saw this vision along time ago, but it took some time for it to become more palatable by the majority. And so I think that is a big lesson for me, is that like you really need to, especially when you're starting something, have internal drive more than external validation, but you should be looking for data and evidence to back it up at all points.
Okay.
And then in terms of AI as a tool, I think it is going to be a transformational tool in every industry, every job, outside of tech, in farming, in writing, in music. It's going to transform every industry. And it is such a magical time because, as you can see, like more and more people are starting companies related to AI agents or some sort of company related to generative AI. And I'm really excited to be part of that movement.
Yeah. It's interesting what you are saying. It's a magical time, right? It's transformational to see where AI is and where AI is going to be. I think the reason why we are here today, though, is because AI has moved to the business office, let's say. It used to be coders, it used to be technology people only being able to make sense of AI, and it was like magical mondo jumbo that, business people could not really understand. Today, like you, I am testing, trialing a lot of business applications for my clients, for the companies I work with, but also for myself, whether, trying to use text-based applications or video application, avatar-based video applications, or just Midjourney or versus Leonardo to actually do pictures. I've become very good at doing pictures using Leonardo, actually, Denzil. But I'm a business person, and I think over the past year, AI has been able to give me the ability to really understand what a prompt is and what it means to create content and automate content, right? There's always a human in the loop, but create content and automate or augment my activities with technology. What's your view around where we are going with some of those development we're already feeling and experiencing today?
I love everything that you said because it's something that I often talk about with people who are not technical, that this is the time to develop your AI literacy, to play around with AI tools, to understand how they think, how they work, and how they can make your life better. How can they augment the work that you're doing? I think we're in such an early period of what technologies and tools are going to come out with AI. But the faster you start immersing yourself in that world, the sooner you'll be able to understand, like, this is how you prompt an AI tool. This is how you talk to an AI tool. This is how you can leverage it. Because I think that AI literacy, if you invest time into it today, you don't have to understand the black box of how it works. You just have to understand how to use it. And then 5, 10 years from now, you'll be the expert, because this is so new for everyone who's out there today. And there are going to be so many jobs just related to how do you use AI tools. And so the faster you can start investing in yourself and your AI literacy, the better. And I often like to say the best way to do that is actually by pursuing a hobby of yours, like something you're very passionate about, and seeing how AI can help with your hobby. So if you love composing music, then look up AI composer tools, AI music tools. If you want to learn how to play an instrument, there are so many great AI learning tools out there. If you said pictures and photography, content, writing, everything that is creative, there is some sort of AI tool out there ready to augment you to be even better at it. And so it's such a great way to get started and dip your toes in, I think.
So you won't believe, but at 6 o'clock, I was writing an article, Denzil, and my article was about authentic identity in the age of generative AI.
Very
And I still,
topical.
but I'm still writing the copy. I hope I will finish it for the weekend. And the reason I woke up and said, I need to write about this is because all the things I read around responsible and ethical artificial intelligence and how you know, are you really authentic if you're using generative AI to augment your work? So I want to throw that question to you. Are we
I love
authentic
it.
when
It's
we
such a
use
great
AI?
question. Yes.
You
I think so. It's kind of a twofold answer. So obviously, there's a lot that goes into responsible and ethical AI. Like, we should be attributing where the data is coming for these AI tools. The original artist should be getting credit. There should be some sort of system to track who was the original creator of a piece of work, because that attribution should exist. So I'm a big believer in some sort of ethical and responsible governance there. But on the other side, I think a lot of artists are standing on the shoulders of giants that came before them. They're always looking at inspiration that happened before and trying to create something new from that. And I think AI tools can help iterate and speed up that process of experimenting with your own work. And I think AI has its own voice. Like, I think it's become very easy to recognize ChatGPT written LinkedIn posts and articles that were clearly written by an AI and not a human. And so I think we're in this like transitional period where sometimes you can't recognize it and sometimes you can. But I think it'll become more and more obvious what is AI generated, because AI generation is just based off previous data. It's not something completely new or creative. It is a repackaging of something that the AI had seen before. And so that's where humans come in, right? We are so great at the creativity of bringing in totally separate ideas into one place, something new and original and out of the box and more strategic. And so I think it gives us a chance to be even better at what we're already doing and just providing the resources and inspiration in a faster, more iterative process. So I guess my answer for that is that everyone is going to continue to develop their own signature voice. I think the writers that will really stand out will be the ones who have something that really makes them sound unique, something that is truly them and authentic. But the fact that they're using AI tools to help speed that process up or to help them iterate through research faster, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing I'm doing now, just because I do like writing, but the research part can take so long. So I will use ChatGPT to help me with ideas around structure. And then I will go into Perplexity to get the research done. So I will say, I need to find information around that topic, like generative AI in the age of 2021, who has written about it. And then I get the list of items, and then I took them, and then I read them, and then I start blending the two. So I think what you are saying as well is about making sure we have a human in the loop, and where we are going to differentiate in the future will be around our uniqueness, differentiation, and our creativity. So being able to blend this in addition to the technology will help us really stand out there.
Exactly. So well said. And really, as you implied, like is just tools. They're just tools that we're using to make ourselves better.
So as a solo technical female founder, Denzil, what unique perspective do you bring in leading an AI-driven company? And how it's been for you? Because you already shared, when you went for your ideas, even raising funding was not that easy. Tell us how that been for you.
It's been a high learning journey. I've learned so much over my founder's path. And I think speaking specifically about being a woman in AI, I think because AI is so based on previous data, on the data that it is fed, it is really important to provide AI tools, diverse sources of data. And what I'm seeing right now in the AI space, I went to a conference a couple weeks ago and there were 12 speakers, none of them are women. And I think that's
There was
really
not Ali K. Mailer. Ali is everywhere nowadays.
Yeah, I know. I was shocked that they didn't have Ali K. Miller because it was in New York City. And she's one of my favorite AI influencers that I follow. And I just think really in this time, it's really important to have diversity of thought, to have diverse sources of information, and not just across gender, but race, culture, socioeconomic class. Diversity of data is so important for AI because it is so fundamental to how AI works. And so I'm a big believer in that. I'm looking for opportunities to increase the platform for underrepresented voices to be heard. And then on the other side, for me personally, I think being a solo technical founder is just a lonely journey. I would love to have a co-founder, but I have a great network around me. I have wonderful investors. I have a wonderful team. And so that's really made the journey a lot easier for me. But it is definitely just a lot of first time founder lessons that I've had to grapple with. I've made a lot of mistakes around thinking build and they will come, or not validating things the right way, or learning over time what is the right way to validate an idea. And so I think it's been an eye-opening experience.
So it's interesting, right? You have built Smarty on your own, right? Probably, as you said, as a pastime. What has been, I guess, a challenge for you to find a co-founder and, having people surrounding you to actually propel and accelerate the growth of your platform?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for a co-founder, there are three main things anyone should be looking for. The first is trust. You need to be able to trust that this person has your back, you have their back, that you have a good, safe relationship where you feel like you can communicate things that you don't agree with and agree with. And it has to be a very honest, transparent, safe relationship. So I think trust is crucial. I think the second thing is that you have to have a complementary skill set. So I am technical. So I either needed someone who was much more technical than me or much more business savvy than me, but not someone who was like equally, because I also went to business school. So not someone who's like at the my peer in either technical or business sense. And then I think the commitment is the last thing, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. So you need someone who's bought into the vision, who wants to be there for the long term. And I've had a few almost co-founders, and we've split amicably because either the vision did not fully resonate or because the complementary skill set wasn't there. And so I think it's really important to find someone who has all three of those things. And I have yet to find someone like that. And so I'm not a solo founder totally by choice. If I could find the right co-founder today, I would 100% bring them on, because it is such a lonely journey. And a co-founder brings so much credibility, accountability, and momentum to everything that you do. I think for fundraising, it was definitely an uphill battle as a solo founder, because it's almost like harder to keep going in face of all of the no's and the rejection that you get, because fundraising is also its own type of marathon. You have to just build a tough skin over time and really take feedback whenever you can get it.
Yeah, I mean, investors are as we know, are not the kindest spokesperson. I've worked with investors and maybe I've learned from them because I'm super direct as well. My colleagues tells me, but what I love to hear from you is, to find your co-founder and to find people you want to work with, you have to build the trust or find the trust. You have to make sure there's commitment that the job is going to be done, and then it has to be complementary. My rule of three actually, Denzel, tend to be intention. You have to have people with the right intention. Then you need to manage expectations as well. And so make clarity around what you're expecting them to do, what you're expected to do, so that there is no overlap between the two, and then boundaries. Because what I found is when you're working on projects, you end up working all the time. But then you need your space to meet your family, to meet your friend. And so you have to also build those boundaries as well around you.
I love that. I'm going to steal that from you. And I feel like that doesn't just apply for professional relationships, it also applies for personal relationships. It's very important to like have that intention, expectations, and boundaries with every relationship and dynamic that you have.
So, what motivated you when you were in, I would say, big tech? You have worked in big tech, you shift from engineering into entrepreneurship. What did you like maybe from working from, for large enterprises? Is it where you got most of your technical background as well?
Yes. So all of my technical background is from Microsoft, both on the product side as well as on the engineering side, which is great. I feel like it was a wonderful place to build up those skills. And because I was the junior member on my engineering team, it was a great way to see how a great team manages and operates. And I can bring a lot of the lessons I saw there to my own team today. So it was a wonderful experience. It's funny, I feel like I underappreciated it while I was there. And now I miss it a lot with like rosy colored glasses. But it was such a great way for me to get my start into engineering and to see how a product is tested, designed, thought about through the user lens. And so I was able to bring a lot of the perspective to Smarty today. But at the same time, a startup is so different than a big tech company and a big tech team. I was at Yammer, and that was almost like a small cog in like the larger Microsoft Office
I remember
platform.
Yammer. I use Yammer. Yeah.
Yeah, so but I've always been in the future of workspace. And so like Yammer is an enterprise productivity tool. It's a collaboration tool for teams. And I think that's just a space that really excites me. And that's why it works so well with Smarty, because Smarty is trying to be this future of work tool for our customers. And so I do feel like my passion for the space really started at Microsoft. But when it comes to startups, running a startup is so different because you have to wear so many hats. You're not just the engineer, you're also the user researcher, you're also the designer, you're also the product person, you're also QA, and you're also everything else that you need to be, like the accountant or the spokesperson. And so it is a high learning space, which I love. I've really like learned to love how much I'm learning every day. And it's really changed my whole perspective on learning. Because I feel like when I was a kid, I always thought there would come a day where, okay, I'm done learning. I'm an adult. I have all the knowledge I need. And now being a startup founder, I crave like learning a new skill every day. It is like the small win that you get from this journey, because there's like so many low lows, but like every time you learn a new skill and you have this growth mindset, I think there's a lot of real joy in that.
That's superb. But also, I'm thinking about, all the different ingredients you've just talked about. Would you actually go back to corporation if you had an opportunity? I'm just, I'm flashing in my mind, thinking about Sam Altman, you used to be at Y Combinator, and I used to run acceleration programs exactly like Y Combinator. And so then he went into OpenAI, and now OpenAI is massive. We had this glitch around him going into Microsoft. So would you consider go back to big tech?
So part of my reason for starting Smarty was really asking myself, like, if I could only work on one thing, what would it be? And I really believe in this larger vision behind Smarty. And so ideally, hopefully Smarty doesn't fail, but if Smarty did fail, I would try to go work on that same vision at a different company, whether it's a competitor or a bigger tech company. But this is really what I want to do. I really want to build this conversational agent for everything we do online. And I think a lot of companies are starting to like build different versions of that. And so I don't know if I would go back to big tech necessarily, but that is something I definitely want to do. I want to go to another product or team working on that vision.
Yeah, well, sorry, but they could buy it as well. Let's go to funding and and advice for our founders around what it takes to actually raise money. You raise money as a solo entrepreneur, right? So what key strategy helped you succeed to raise your $2.5 million as a first-time founder? What advice do you have for other entrepreneurs? And I want you to think about other female founders, because that is where there is most difficulties to actually raise money from investors today.
Yeah, I definitely think fundraising in of itself is an uphill battle. And then every card that might detract from making you the more standard applicant is always going to just make the battle a little bit harder. But I will say, what I've learned from my founder's journey and from my fundraising experience, I would have very different advice for someone fundraising today than when I did in 2020. And so, to my journey, what really helped me was persistence. I pitched this, my first investor in business school. She said no, but I stayed in touch with her. I cultivated that network. I kept sending her updates about, hey, this is what I'm doing now for Smarty. This is the extra data that I validated. And I think that persistence really charmed her, I'm hoping. I don't know. But she wrote our first check and it was part of an accelerator. But I definitely think the fact that I'd stayed so consistent and so resilient about this vision and this dream, she was willing to take that initial bet on me. And that was Pear Ventures out in California. I went through their accelerator and that's how I got started. But that really happened through this resilience and this persistence and this cultivation of my network. For founders today, though, especially female founders today, I really think it is so easy to start validating an idea today, easier than ever. It is so easy to prototype things today. It is so easy to start building a landing page. And so if I was going to start a startup today, or if I had an idea, and even if I didn't have an idea, if I knew that I wanted to be a founder, what I would do is I would start playing around and experimenting with how can I make money on the internet? How can I start validating a customer and a pain point and build out a community around that pain point? And so I would create a landing page with different value propositions and see which one is driving more users to it, which start building up a wait list of community of users that you can start talking to. And I think there's so much you can do before you even start building a line of code, because you can talk to these users, you can understand a very specific pain point, you can understand exactly what type of product they want, especially if you're building a software company. And then there's so many prototyping tools out there today. Figma is a great one in order to build out interactive prototypes. So you can find these users, you can build up this loyal community before you even have a product. You can build up a bunch of user research, and then you can start testing your Figma prototype around, okay, do you like this? Does this work the way you want it to work? And you can do that without any technical help and take all of that data to an investor and say, look at all of this validation I've done. Look at all of these customers I have. Or even better, maybe you can bootstrap it because you've suddenly found a customer that you can solve a problem for manually while you build out the software for it on the side by either outsourcing the development or finding a technical co-founder who can help you build it out, or being technical yourself, because there's so many no-code platforms today. And so I guess my advice for founders today is that there is so much you can do before you even start raising money. And then if you've done all of that homework, raising money becomes easier because you have all of this validation.
That's superb. Yes. It's about today, as you said, technology is becoming a utility. So it's much cheaper now to build a business and even test things. And you're right, there is so much technology with no code, low code now that you can actually, I'm not technical, but I learned to build websites as well and landing pages because I like learning how the things works together, how you actually, all the components of a funnel. Then I can give it to my team, but if I don't understand it, I can actually see where the mistakes are being done. So I absolutely love what you are saying around the world we are in today. I think as business people, forces us to actually learn from areas we are not maybe that comfortable, because we have to be comfortable in a SaaS-driven e-commerce world where you can start monetizing a lot of things nowadays.
I love what you just said for two main reasons. One, the mindset you describe about like needing to build something yourself to see how it works. I think that is such a founder's mindset, because it is really important that you are a generalist and you can dip your toes into many different spaces to understand how it works so you can see whether it's working correctly or not. And then the second part of that, really this idea of, oh, I lost it, but there was a second part where I was like, that is the founder's mindset. So
It's going to come back. Let's talk about Smarty right now. So how exactly does Smarty enhance productivity for people? How does it help professionals plan their best day? Because I think that's what I saw on your website, and how just take us through a day in the life maybe of Denzil using Smarty.
yeah, I love that. So Smarty is trying to be an AI-powered conversational calendar. We're trying to create conversational commands for solopreneurs and teams of one and small business owners to capture everything on their plate in one place so that they can plan their best day every day. And so we're trying to create conversational commands like coffee with Stella at Blue Bottle in San Francisco at 2 p.m. London time, and have Smarty send the calendar invite to the right people with the right location, with the right time zone, just with a single command. And we're trying to do that not just in calendar management, but also scheduling link management, task management, email management, contact management. So just creating these conversational commands for all of the administrative workflows that you have as part of both your personal life and your professional life. And so the way that I use Smarty today, I have it connected. Smarty's only on top of G Suite today. And so it's connected to all of my personal accounts as well as my professional accounts. And so I can switch between accounts really easily. I can open up my email in Smarty and I can get to inbox 0 very quickly with email shortcuts. Every time I see an email that requires me to schedule an event, I can just say to Smarty, send this coffee with Stella at this date. Or if I need to send a scheduling link, I can say, okay, coffee with my coworker Kimmy for next week, and send that to a client, and it'll have both my availability and my clients, Kimmy, my coworkers' availability as well. And so really trying to speed up these administrative tasks that we're doing like an executive assistant would do, but instead of delegating to an EA, you're delegating to Smarty.
Yeah, it's interesting. A friend of mine just a few days ago got me to start using Superhuman. So I'm going to try it to actually clear my inbox. But think about that. I'm using Superhuman to clear my inbox, Calendly, to get people to set up time with me. So is the world going to start combining all those capabilities where we actually right now using disparate technology to get our automation and productivity? Do you see Smarty starting combining all this stuff so that we just have one dealing with our inbox, emails, and
Exactly.
calendar issues?
I really think of Smarty as this all-in-one tool where it is a combination of these features set across Superhuman, Calendly, and these other productivity tools that are out there all in one place. And then also this idea of having these conversational commands to do all of those automations. And that is like my larger vision for Smarty as well. So all of these tools that you use, they have APIs. APIs are a language that software uses to talk to other software. And so my goal is for Smarty to be this API hub where it connects to these different APIs that are out there, the Gmail API, the Google Calendar API, your contacts API, and then Smarty is this one place where you can do all of this work without any context switching. So that's exactly what we're trying to do.
That's super cool. So, but at the same time, think about the world we're in today. And last year was one of those bizarre years, I think 2023, where, because of generative AI, we've seen and heard a lot about layoff and people being scared of losing their jobs because of technology. So what is your lens around how founders, can focus on revenues and profitability, leveraging those technology, but then also what is our responsibility when we use AI and the implication, you mentioned it earlier, around the future of work?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question and very top of mind. So I think there are a few different parts to it. So the first one is around like responsibility and governance of AI development, because it is, a very fascinating but also scary sort of transformational tool. And so I think the way that the United States is handling it right now around having a lot of transparency, but not a lot of restriction on innovation, I think that is a great stance to have. And I think it will allow us to really be thoughtful and strategic about how AI expands across industries over the next 5-10 years. In terms of the fear of AI taking jobs, I definitely think there will be a short-term cost of AI replacing some of these very manual roles that humans are doing that can easily be, again, automated with existing technology. And so there is a short-term cost here, but I think in the long term, AI will be creating more jobs. It will be creating more opportunities and more potential profit and for the entire ecosystem. And so I think that's why I am such a big believer in like investing in your AI literacy as a knowledge worker today. The more you understand how AI works, the more quickly you'll be able to adapt it to a new role or to a new job that is opening up.
Yeah, I was reading recently about, the fourth industrialized industrial revolution, but also about Henry Ford. And when, the car got automated, it was a manual process to build a car. And then we had all this amazing machinery to build the cars. And so there was a period where humans didn't know how to use the machinery. So there was a loss of jobs until then we had new jobs appearing where they were part of the manufacturing process of the car, the audit of the car, making sure everything works perfectly. And probably with artificial intelligence, we are going to be going through that path because we have a massive talent gap right now where we don't have, I guess, enough engineers, I would say, who actually understand how that applies to business. But also, I think business people really understanding how to make the best of that technology. And as we said earlier, becoming more creative and adding value to the technology rather than the reverse. So that takes me around AI transformation, Denzil. What's your prediction? Where are we going in 5 to 10 years' time from now?
Yeah, I really like to think of AI under three main pillars. This idea that AI is predictive, proactive, and personalized. And what I mean by that is that AI is able to take all of this past data and predict future outcomes or where something that you're going to do in the future based off like past data. It's proactive based off these like future things that you're about to do. It can actually automate those future actions for you. So it's proactive in getting things done. And then it's personalized. It can take your personal data and understand your personal preference on how to do things moving forward. And so I think that is like the three pillars behind AI. And I think that you're going to see that in every industry, everywhere that AI is applied, it's going to be predictive, proactive, and personalized to you. And that's what we're trying to do at Smarty as well. We're trying to take the data that we have, be proactive with what we can do next in the context that we have around that data, and then personalize those automations to our users so that it feels magical. And I think that is what AI is going to do. It's going to make a lot of the mundane tasks that we do today feel magical and instantaneous. And I think that's really exciting. And I'm excited to see how that happens across industries.
The three P's of AI, predictive, proactive, personalized. Mine are actually automation. So it's first about automation. Second is about analysis, which goes into your prediction. And lastly, it's about engagement, which goes into personalization. So, similarity, but I like the three P's. So I may use them,
Please, go for it.
signed by Denzil. So, but at the same time, what are some of the key challenges? We talk a lot about bias right now. You mentioned, in a relationship, you're expecting transparency. I talk a lot to the companies I work with around privacy and security. What do you think we need? How do we address those additional pillars which are making people very uncomfortable right now?
Yeah, I definitely hear the concerns around privacy and security, but I actually think there's a lot of different tools that will be put into place to really protect one's personal data as well as how that personal data is accessed. And so I definitely think that is something that is top of mind for everyone who's working in this space. And there's a clear path on how to keep data secure. I think the scarier part is the data and the biases in the data that we have, because we're already in such biased systemic institutions. And so if we actually further institutionalize the data that we have by putting it into these AI tools, we're forever cementing the biases that we're seeing in our current institutions. And so I think it's really important for us to understand where is our data coming from, to make sure that we're correctly attributing it, to make sure that we're correctly checking for the accuracy of the data that we have, and that we're checking that it's representative of whatever it's trying to represent. And I think that means there needs to be a lot of governance and regulation around that. And there should be a lot of transparency for every institution. Where is our data coming from? This is how this tool was built out. This is how we use this data to build out this AI system. And I think that's the scarier part, because there's a lot more black box there right now, because a lot of institutions don't want to talk about where they got their data, and they don't want to say if they no one is readily going to give their data up to a third party to audit it to make sure that it was as fair as possible. And so I think that is where I get a little bit concerned, but we're still in the really early stages of all of that. And so for all we know, in the next couple of years, more startups will pop up around solving that specific problem around data transparency and data attribution and providing companies the right data sources. And I do think that's a big opportunity potentially.
Yeah, no, that is superb and a great way of putting it actually as well. Because, when I think about the internet, I use Google, Bing, Firefox. I mean, those are the three platforms I do use probably on a regular basis. When you actually think about the information, even going through the internet and a search engine, it is already biased, right? Because you have the click through, you have people advertising their content, and so you have to often sift through to actually find the information you are looking for. And it's where sometimes and often I find, using Perplexity to find the information I'm looking for really helpful. And I know Gemini is doing that as well now, being on Google. So bias is already in the data and the information which is available to us, which means I go for reliable sources of information, as you said. So I will look for the HBR, the Forbes, the Fortune. So I will become much more critical around the sources I will look at to actually accredit any information I'm sharing or even numbers that I'm using in my articles. So again, very important. The last point, though, Denzil, is when I actually try to do pictures with the picture making platforms. I'm not going to name any because all of them have the same bias. If you actually ask for, create a picture of a leader, the leader will usually be a man, white man with blue eyes.
You have to specify that you want a female leader, which I agree. I've had that same experience, of course.
Right? And so that's where it's a much simplest way to actually understand how those systems already biased. How to rectify that, I don't know. Maybe it's qualification into the prompt, but can we, Denzil, correct those at the moment? Because the data is already out there. We are not, as you said, taking new data.
Well, obviously from our end, like, as you said, like you have to prompt for diversity, right? You have to prompt for what is not the standard that the tool will return to you. So as a user, there's obviously things that you can do to fight that bias, but you have to be aware of it and you have to be cognitively intentional about fighting that bias that exists, which not every user is going to be savvy enough to do. And so the second part of it is really on the companies. They really need to make sure that they're sourcing data that corrects for these biases. I think it's really important for companies to either themselves internally look at their data and say, okay, what are the biases in this data and how can we correct for it? Or to outsource that job to a third-party company that can then audit their data, tell them what biases there are, and then tell them how to fix that, and maybe even provide data sources for them to fix the data that they have that they're using to train their models. And I do think this will open up an entire industry just around that, because I do think users like us care that our data, that our tools are fair and representative of the world that we live in.
Absolutely. Just want to ask you my last question around future of work and leadership, right? We now are in a world where we need to pay much more attention to future of work. We have a lot of collaboration tools because we are all working remotely. Not all, but many of us are, or hybrid. It means we have a few days at home and a few days in the office, which is probably the right balance. How do companies take care of their employees' experience, looking at the way the world is going today with emerging technologies?
Yeah, I think, every company is figuring it out on their own with their own employees. So I can't make a broad statement for companies out there, but our company is remote, distributed, and asynchronous the majority of the time. We do have meetups once in a while in New York because one of our employees is in New York. But in general, I believe that this is the future of work. And then to your point about I think there's a balance there between having some events in person. I've talked to a lot of companies that have found that balance through having a quarterly retreat in a location where people come together, or if everyone is in the same city, having a single day that is more focused on fun co-working and then going out to a social event. And so being more intentional again with the social expectations, and also I think what the future of work really allows companies to do is to provide very individualized experiences. And so if before, at least when I was at Microsoft, we used to have a retreat day, but that wasn't everyone's cup of tea. Some people are introverts. Some people don't like an entire day of social activities because of their families or other commitments. And so this really provides companies a chance to survey all of the different types of people that work there and then see, okay, actually, this type of person really prefers happy hours. This type of person really prefers fun co-working days together, and really try to curate a personalized experience for every employee. And I do think that's part of the whole future of work movement, just democratizing opportunities, personalizing experiences, and being more intentional with everything that we do.
And maybe we could become much more occasional as well in everything that
Definitely.
we do. So thank you, Denzil, for joining me today. Where can people find you? Where can they find more information about Smarty?
Well, everyone here, I hope you can try out Smarty by going to www.smarty.ai. And then you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Denzil Eden, and I'm always happy to talk to aspiring founders, people who are just trying to figure out careers, especially in tech, women. And then also, if you want a personalized onboarding of Smarty, I'm always happy to walk people through it.
Superb. 50% of my listeners are in United States, probably 40% are in the United Kingdom or vice versa. I hope you are going to come and visit us at some point in London,
I
Denzil.
would love to. I love London.
Well, we will welcome you. And if you come, we could actually probably get you to meet some people. So thank you so much for joining me on Scouting for Growth. And I hope I will see you very soon.
I hope so too. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Scouting for Growth. Please subscribe, share with friends, and leave a 5-star rating. Your rating is so valuable. I review all of them, and my team help me adapt content to meet your needs. Also, connect with me on my preferred channels. I am a B2B growth expert, so you will find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads, and X as well as Blue Sky. All information available below. Until next, keep scouting for growth.